to NEK-TV Rocks, and my guests today are...
Maurice Brosser.
Mike Kutzer.
And you are both from the Knights of Columbus. What is the Knights of Columbus, or what are the Knights?
Okay, well, the Knights of Columbus is a fraternal organization that was founded in 1882, primarily at that point for Catholic men.
Mm-hmm.
There are female organizations as well, similarly founded back in the day when things were separated by gender.
They still are.
They, for the most part, they are, but there are auxiliaries,
Yes.
just like there are with the VFW and the American Legion and others and such. But the primary purpose was to help Catholic families, particularly families that might have financial difficulty.
So how long has this organization been in existence in Newport?
We were founded here, I believe, in 1921 by a gentleman by the name of Walter Cleary, who was a Supreme Court Justice.
And a good Irish name.
Oh, yes, yes. And he was an interesting character. In fact, this building was put up by his son, or his daughter and his son, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Small town.
It is a small town, indeed.
The reason this show sort of happened is because I've been watching some of the really interesting programs that you guys do that are not just Catholic focused, but are so inclusive of everybody in the area. How did that come about? And tell us about some of the programs.
Well, so basically what has happened to a lot of organizations is whether it be schools, churches,
Right.
fraternal organizations, whatever, is that numbers have been diminishing, not just
Right.
because of COVID, but because of natural change
Life, right.
in America's demography. So we've just discovered that it makes a lot more sense to work together with other groups rather than to work against each other or at odds with each other.
Can you share that idea with some of the...
We're working on it. We're working on it. Just to give you a good example, you might have noticed that there are two posters on either side of town say "Keep Christ in Christmas." Christmas
Yes, I
being
saw it on one
fundamentally
side of town.
founded because of Christ, right?
So the story goes, right?
Right. And so next year what we're hoping to do is to do this in collaboration with other churches in the area so that it's not just one group out there doing it by themselves, so that we're working together again. And similarly, Morris can speak to a couple of the other programs we've got going on. We've had a thing for children, several things for children. We've got and these are non-sectarian,
Right.
same idea.
Yeah.
We spread the word out to the other groups in the area, and they collaborate with us.
And you engage the public as well.
Absolutely.
And you've just had a wonderful program at the Armory, which was kids.
Shopping with Santa.
Yeah. Tell us about that. Tell
Oh,
everybody
Shopping with
about
Santa
that.
it's people just coming forward and giving different stuff around the house that they're not using anymore.
Right.
There might be downsizing or something, but it gives goods at cheap rates, because we're selling things that were worth $50 for 25 cents.
Right.
You know,
And your shoppers are only children.
only children. It's supposed to be only the children going through. Well, of course, the adults sometimes went with the kids, or sometimes the cadets were the
Right.
elves.
Yeah.
So Santa Claus had his elves going out with the kids, shopping for the parents. We had a whole group of ladies and men rapping.
Yeah.
And then we also had different events for kids to win more items.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this was done in collaboration with the junior ROTC program at the high school.
Right.
So we had youth students involved as well as teachers from the
Yeah.
school. And as Morris said, not just the Knights of Columbus, a lot of spouses are involved in this as well. So even though the name may say Knights of Columbus, in fact, it's families that care.
Right. My introduction to you is from your wife, who does an amazing PR job for you.
She does.
She really does. And she was the one I approached and said, hey, you've got to come on and talk about this. And her response was, no way, let me send. And that was how that evolved. But it's great.
Yes.
And clearly you have a lot of people helping. But that Shopping with Santa, I gather it's been happening now for a couple of years.
Yes. No, that's only the second year we've done it.
Second year.
Well, but
dri-
it evolved from other events that have existed
We had
in the
New Christmas,
past,
yeah.
way back in the day, say 25, 30
Yeah.
years ago. Other organizations also had similar things, coats for Christmas, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So there has been an ongoing evolution of things. This is
Right.
the most recent
Yeah.
manifestation of that,
Yeah.
if you will.
I think what's a little different about this is it gives it to kids, but you're not handing stuff out
Right.
to kids. You're saying, it's a holiday, here's some money, it's not very much money, but now you can do some shopping and you can participate
Right.
in this holiday. You can buy a gift for somebody and give it to that person. And that's beautiful.
Mhm. And-
That's different from just handing out coats and hats, all of which are important, and I'm not knocking that.
And of course, at the end, we do have there's so much money did come in, of course, but the Knights paid for like some of the candy, some of the food.
Yeah.
Some of the different things in, and so did some actual donations come in. So there is a profit, which we put the how much money comes in, we put it into our coffers, and we have to, because we're a nonprofit organization, we end up giving that money right back away to some needy family or something like that.
That's great.
Right. We have scholarship programs as well that are on a national scale. So every year, students that graduate from the local high schools are eligible for scholarships to school. To
Any
go.
students?
Yep. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. They're always welcome to apply. And we have lots of other things we give to the local food shelves. We do take stuff in. At one point, we had a bigger connection with the food shelf than we do now. But again, things evolve and change, and that may improve as well.
Right.
We're putting up a new parish hall within the next few years next to St. Mary's. Hopefully, that will become the venue from which we are able to do even more programs. We've sponsored
Right.
scout units in the past.
Uh-huh.
We're hoping to get back into that again. We've sponsored local sports, hoop shoot contests, basketball. What else? did we
Baseball
do?
teams.
Baseball
Yeah.
teams, right, and other things. And again, as with other things, the wave of things moves around. So
It does.
Right.
How many of you are there?
we have, I'm
195.
going to say, almost 200.
Yeah, we lost 2 members this week, 2 young members. It was sad.
Oh.
One was young, 72. One was 56.
That's young.
Right.
Yes.
Well, 56 is pretty darn young, that's for sure.
Definitely. It's way
Right.
younger than some of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, for sure, for sure. And there used to be 2 women's organizations as well, and many of those women, because their organization basically dwindled to unmanageable numbers, so they just disbanded. But a lot of those women are spouses of men who are in the Knights. So
Or even the
they're
widows.
still-
The
they're
widows work too.
Yes, that's right. A lot of the widows work, so they're pretty much involved, and we're going to create an auxiliary so that they have a name to go with the organization. We'd love to bring them in totally, but that's a larger scale issue, and we're
And
working on
Probably not one for us to discuss here today, but
it. Right, right.
yeah, auxiliary doesn't quite cut it in the same way.
You got that right, and we're working on it. But
Yeah, and if
it's a step in the right direction.
I mean, seriously, if you want younger people with a different point of view to be involved,
That's
it's
right.
certainly something worth considering.
Yes, we do got a lot of young members that have joined. And
That's great.
with families and their spouses are very invigorated. Like we had Brandon and his wife, Christine. I think it's Christine. I'm terrible with names myself, but they join with their kids and they're helping with shopping with Santa. So the kids, we said the kids are toy testers. They're helping us. They're having a
Yeah.
lot of fun with the toys, but we loved it. We
Yeah.
loved
No, it
watching
was
them
good.
play.
Yeah,
was
yeah. One
good.
of my neighbors was involved in that. Teenage daughter was, quote, one of the elves.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yes,
And I
yes.
okay.
think the other kids in the family were helping too.
Yes,
Well,
it was
yes.
kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we have other things that we've done. We have the pet
Yeah,
blessing
I see that
was
every
very
year.
popular. We didn't know how popular it would be, but I don't remember what the numbers were, but
Oh, yes, and we had over 100 animals. that
yeah,
were there.
over 100 animals.
Some
and-
people brought their cats in cages,
Yeah, I can
Sure.
imagine how my cats would respond if I took them there.
Well, there
especially
you
when
go.
the dogs started barking.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't put the cages too close together.
No.
But again, it was another one of those things that, for a lot of people, it's a very, they like the idea.
Yeah.
And it brings people together who, well, maybe that's their bond.
Right.
They all like pets. They like cats, or they like dogs, or
Yeah.
whatever.
And they're
it's-
connecting over something that's important to
right.
them.
It goes beyond just a Sunday ceremony, let's
Yeah.
just say.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like last year, instead of being called shopping with Santa, we were calling having cookies with Santa. That was last year's. So it was a little, that was with the spin-off. That was the first year. You could see we were in at the end of COVID.
Right.
So all the masks were still being used. This year, we were a little mask-free.
Isn't it nice?
Oh, yes, sure is.
It's not true everywhere.
I know.
Europe and Asia are still using masks all over the place. It's
Europe, not so much.
and it's inconvenient for sure.
Yeah.
It slows things down. So we're happy to have the doors reopened, so to speak. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So, what are you planning next?
Oh, the next one, we're actually starting to plan a dinner for the future, for celebrating a priest that's going on his 50 years. So the public is welcome to it, because some of these figures, like Father Charbonneau, when we celebrated him 2 years ago,
Yeah.
they're a person in the public's eye that the people have gotten to know him, because
Right.
they involved with people, whether they're in the Catholic Church or
Right.
not. They love them. They love just loving life and giving people hope and helping people. In their young age, I remember Father Leo or Father Charbonneau, they would actually split wood for complete strangers sometimes.
Right.
And
Right.
you don't see that all the time.
Right.
No.
And that shows you where the love goes out when you're helping a person no matter what. You're there to help. It's just like I was very impressed when the Knights of Columbus was at Katrina when they hit New Orleans.
Yes.
The head of the Knights, I think they pumped in $5 million
Something like that. Yeah.
into that relief fund to try to help people building the communities back, as well as not how many Knights organizations drove in their men and everything from Pensacola, Florida. Would have been Ivan DeLevier,
Right.
which he's
Right.
in the Knights of Columbus, and their whole group went there for 2 weeks, just handing out water, or sometimes just cleaning up the mess.
And we've also got a couple of other projects that are in the works right now. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, St. Mary's is going to be putting up a new parish hall.
Yeah.
For years and years and years and years, we used, about 100 years, we used the old church that
Right.
still exists, in fact. But it got to be too difficult to maintain it. The national organization has a system of matching funds. So if we give, say, $10,000 towards a project, they'll match it
Nice.
up to a certain amount. And so we're going to be starting a project to put up this new parish hall, and that won't be cheap.
No, I'm
Um,
sure.
But we established a fund 20 years ago toward that end.
Right.
And that's built very nicely over the years, and we're going to use that money to start things. So that'll be a nice new thing, and that'll be used by the whole community.
Yeah. And that's up on the hill
Yeah.
Right.
where the church is now.
Right. Right next to it, there's a blue house,
Right.
and it's my old house. I just sold it to them last year,
Huh.
and they're going to knock that house down and put up the parish hall right there.
Nice.
So
With
it'll be a
like
nice
a community
location.
center.
Yes, exactly.
That's a really big need here.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely what they were looking at as, for the community, older, aging people to place to gather. Yeah.
For everybody.
Yes.
And
Right.
not just us older people.
Yeah,
but-
well, it's like St. Edward's will have breakfasts,
Yeah.
and like the youth group just put on a breakfast this past Saturday.
Right, and
Sunday.
the old Knights of Columbus Hall was used that way.
Yes.
We rented the hall out for all kinds of different events.
Cheap
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
And these days, there, as you say, there really isn't much,
There's nothing.
and whatever there is very expensive.
Exactly.
So that's a big project. We'll be starting that. And one of our members, in fact, will be demolishing that building
Wow.
as a donation. He's going to knock it down
Wow.
as a.
That's a wonderful donation.
Yes, it is. It is, because that's not cheap.
No.
Because you've got to knock it down. That's big equipment.
And then haul it
and then
all
haul
away.
it. You got to haul it all away, and we took care of all the hazardous material
Right.
stuff that needs to be done.
And there's going to be housing up there as well.
There is, but that's not going to be us. That's a private.
Right. It's
That's a
Rural
private
Edge
thing.
and
Yes, it
somebody
is.
else. But
It is.
that means more people in that area.
Of course it does,
Oh,
and
yes.
we're seriously hoping that they're going to include the community in the process.
I would hope so.
Whether they do or not, of course,
I know.
we really don't know, because of course, you're not from here, so I'm
Really?
sure you don't know the history of that hill.
I know
that-
bits of it, what I've read,
The
obviously.
entire athletic field, as
Yeah.
it were, was about 80 to 100 feet underneath a hill.
Wow.
That entire hill was removed. About 8 to 10 acres of hill was removed in the 60s. You
Why?
couldn't do that today.
Why?
Why? Because
Yeah.
they wanted to build the athletic field, and they had anticipated rebuilding the old elementary school, which they never
Huh.
did. The sisters' residence was built. The old high school building was built in the 50s, and these were all excavated bits of that hill, of Prospect Hill.
Huh.
So you see old postcards from the 30s and 40s, they show the hill,
Yeah.
that it's still there. So we're hoping that they're going to utilize that area. And my understanding is they bought behind as well,
Yes.
the two houses behind. So we're hoping they're going to do something so that folks have a nice place to go.
That would be lovely.
You know, better than the park. The park's designed for kids, and that's fine. But let's have a place that folks can just go for a walk,
Yes.
for a picnic,
Yeah.
just relax and look at the view.
Just hang.
Sure, absolutely. And of
Yeah.
course, as you know, the view up there is phenomenal.
Yes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous view. So whether we'll be involved in that, we don't know, but we most certainly are interested in being involved.
Have you made an offer? Like,
Well,
yo, we're
we are
here.
hearing bits and pieces. We're not getting a whole lot of real solid information.
Because Rural Edge came to City Council and did a presentation on it.
Right. But they gave no presentation to the parish. Which, you
That's
know,
true.
we would like them to do that, and maybe they will. Maybe we'll approach them and
Yeah.
say, hey,
We're alive.
yes, and we'd
We're
like to be part of the
interested,
process.
And it would be really useful not to exclude us.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
there's history. You know, it's like anything in a small town. Everything's connected.
Yes.
Everything's connected.
So is everybody here.
Right. Well, the house that I used to own, there's a room there that was built for the priest who put up the stone church.
Huh.
He passed away in that house.
Yeah.
So there's a connection. The sister's residence was constructed by my great uncle. And you scratch most anybody around here who was Catholic, and one of their relatives was a nun
Yes.
or a priest
Yep.
in this area. So it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all good, you know.
Yeah, it fascinates me. As you rightly pointed out, I'm not from around here. It fascinates me who is connected to whom.
Yes.
And somebody is at your house for something, and they say, "Oh yeah, I think my cousin lives further down the street. I don't know her real well, but," and then big families.
Sure. Well,
Oh, yeah, big
and-
families.
Yeah.
And this area is very closely divided 50-50 amongst French-Canadian descendants and then
Right.
the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant side. My mother's side is the St. Johnsbury, Fairbanks, and Darlings.
Yeah.
Well-known names over there. And my father's side, all French-Canadian on this side.
Right.
My grandfather was the barber in town for 1,000,000 years. And it's all connected.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful what you say here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some police might be watching you, like Pauline.
Well, it was one of my friends wrote a book. It's called Stranger in the Kingdom, and that was Howard Mosher.
Oh, yes.
It's a wonderful book.
And
Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I loved talking with Howard about how he write and how he come up with stories and that. So he would be showing me some scripts he was writing. I'd read them and some of the other books he'd have. So
Yeah.
I have all signed copies of all of his books.
It's really neat. I mean, stories are such a wonderful way of communicating.
It's like Scott Wheeler's fantastic at giving
Yes, he is.
stories and
He is.
very open.
And yesterday I recorded a show with somebody who's going to do something called Tipsy Talks, which is storytelling. And they'll go to different pubs, bars. They're going to start at the Gap out in Westmore. And it's just a way for people to come out in the evenings, in the winter particularly, and tell stories, sort of like the moth on the radio show. But just as it's a connection.
Of course.
But just like another one of our friends, you remember Brad Marcotte,
Oh, sure.
Tales of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. And, of course, we had a local lady who, back in the 70s, wrote a history of Newport, the evolution of Newport, Vermont.
Who was
Her
that?
Her name was Emily Nelson,
Huh.
and she was the superintendent of schools
Yeah.
for elementary schools back in the
Yeah.
50s and 60s. And back when she was a pioneer in her field. She was a wonderful, wonderful lady. And then when Newport had its 75th anniversary, I wrote a book as well, and she was my editor.
Huh.
And we had a lot
What
of
was
fun.
your book?
It was basically a book that we wrote for Newport's 75th anniversary, similar to the one that they came out with 2 years ago for the
Yes.
centennial. Yeah, a very similar book.
I've seen many of those books, and obviously when we first moved here, I did a lot of looking around. And Barbara Malloy has a couple
Yes.
of books too.
Yeah, she's got they're basically photographs,
Yeah.
and there was a series of them from
Yes.
towns all over the United States.
Yeah.
And that publishes these
Yeah, those are
books.
still available.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yes.
But I haven't seen the other two.
No, the others are hard to
Yours.
find. You've got to look carefully for them.
It's not like Scott Wheeler. Scott's got a lot of good books out there.
Oh, Scott's got everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's written specific ones about, the alcohol.
And he's still
The days of
writing.
alcohol,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
of course.
Prohibition in
Right.
the Northeast Kingdom.
Well, he's been able to make it into a living, and
Smugglers.
that's really cool.
It's wonderful.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, his family's another one of those families that's been here forever, and so they've got a lot of history. And
Yeah.
he grew up in one side of Newport that had a local name for it.
Right.
You know, the different parts of
Skunk
town.
Hollow.
Yeah.
Yep, Skunk
Well,
Hollow.
and then there's Stovepipe City. Can't
Yes.
forget that one. And Chiefo was another town, another part of town. And we had all these different parts of town. It was kind
Yeah,
of
I live in the
interesting.
old Stagecoach Inn
Okay.
Oh, yeah?
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go. There you
on the
go.
bluff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. We have a group called West Side, Newport's West
Yeah,
Side.
I've seen that
That's
on
yes,
Facebook.
right.
Yeah.
And I started that group about 10 years ago
Uh-huh.
with Kathy McQuillan. And we've had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun with that.
Another group he belongs to is a Civil War Roundtable.
Right,
Hmm.
right. And that's one where we get together and talk about
The Civil
this,
War.
right, and how it may, in some case, have connections to our local area and the people
It
in
certainly
this
seems to
area.
have connections to our lives right now.
Yeah, this is
And
for
not
sure.
in a good way.
No, but we've been through tougher times. When you think about what it was like living here in the 1860s,
I can imagine just how hard
this is
it
a
was.
piece of cake.
Harsh, yeah.
Well, you take towns like Albany that were a quarter of the size. They're a quarter of the size they were in 1860.
Right.
Montgomery's got 600 empty cellar holes.
Yeah.
They don't have 600 houses. So what happened?
Where did those people go?
A lot of that happened to a lot of places in the Northeast Kingdom.
Yeah.
People just moved west. After the Civil War, they discovered there's great farmland out west. Talking to guys from other parts
Sure.
of the country, well, let's go. So
And they
did. And they didn't come back.
Pioneer spirit.
Right, right. Yeah, we were just talking about that. He's got 11 siblings, and he's the only one living here.
Huh. And the others all just spread out.
They did.
All spread out, all
Right.
across the United States, pretty well.
Right.
We got a lot in New England, though. There's 4 of
Right.
us that are in New England states.
Right.
Yeah.
Maine, Massachusetts.
But it's still a wonderful place, and I just moved back after 14 years in Japan, and I wanted to be here. This is where I belong.
Right.
'Cause I love this area. It's a wonderful place. There are a lot of great people here.
Right.
There may be a lot of problems, but by the
Far
same
less
token,
here than many other places.
True.
go to Shattuck Hill and tell me there's a nicer place to see.
Isn't it?
Nicer view anywhere in New England.
view is
It's-
gorgeous.
It's incredible.
I hope nobody gets to build that.
They can't. It's against the town of Derby has a bylaw that says nothing can be built in that field.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't
No,
know that. That's
no.
wonderful.
Right. And for many years, to even own it, you had to farm it. That was
Yeah.
the rule amongst the family members.
Ha.
The family members, but now it's been sold.
Right, but
Yeah,
it's
I
owned
saw
by
that.
a local man now.
Okay.
Yeah, and he has no intentions of doing anything other than keeping the view. Now we got to do is we had to buy the trees down at the bottom of the hill and cut them because they're obstructing the view.
You know what? We need trees.
Yes, but Vermont had only 10% of the state had trees 1900, and now
Uh-huh.
we're at 85%.
Yeah, we've
So we've come back as far as we really do need
Yeah.
to go. Yeah, you got to have a little bit of open air,
True.
right?
Less chances that we haven't had a forest fire in Vermont in many years, but it's always possible.
Yeah.
Possibilities.
Right. No,
during
we're
the
lucky.
dry
We
seasons.
have a good aquifer here, so we're unlikely to have one.
We do, but we need to start taking care of our water here.
Oh, for
Yes,
sure,
we're
for
not
sure,
doing.
for sure.
We're doing some high-risk things, and that would be tragic.
Yep, we are, but that started back when they put that dam up in Magog, because this lake is 11 feet
Yeah,
higher than it was.
right.
So we lost a lot of wetland, and that's unrecoverable.
Hmm.
You know, that's sad, but,
But it's important for us not to lose any more.
oh, absolutely.
Does your group get involved with things like that?
We haven't locally, but although the Green Up Day started in 1970, and that was started by Governor Davis, and at the time, a tremendous percentage of the local organizations were very, very involved. We haven't been in recent years, but again, that's like so many other things. It's a matter of getting,
The time sometimes.
well, yes, but not just the individual organizations, but all the
Right.
organizations to work together.
Right.
Because the Green Up Days are really important and a very, very Vermont type thing to do.
Yes, it is.
I remember the very first one because I was a Boy Scout at the time, and I remember they pulled hundreds and hundreds of tires
Yes.
Isn't it bizarre?
out of ravines. People
Yeah.
would just throw their tires over the ridge.
I just saw a place where I saw a bunch of tires the other day, and I was going to point it out to someone
Right.
later in the town of Newport.
And down here, right by where the two bridges are, I remember they pulled 10 or 15 cars out of the lake.
Yeah, I mean, Vermonters are supposed to care about the environment, and yet here they are. I've driven down country roads and see people just hurling junk out of the
Yeah.
car window. You think, come on, you live here.
Yes.
Right,
This is your front yard. What are you doing?
right,
Yeah.
right.
You think people would go and pick? I pick up trash if I see on the side of the road.
Right.
Bring it to a trash can. And you know, we do recycle and we do compost. So
Right, and we certainly have, over the course of years, we've had other things that we've done. We certainly have, we help to beautify the churches and
Yeah.
other things around it, clean up around them, because a lot of places in the past, they just threw stuff in the backyard. And I remember one time we went out to one of our local parishes, and we went to the back of the church where they'd stored stuff and took about 10 dump loads of junk
Yeah.
out of the back and brought them to the landfill. So we do a lot of that as well, stuff
Yeah.
that people don't realize. A lot of the painting, the decorations on the outside of the church, those are put up by members of the
Yeah.
Knights of
And
Columbus.
there's so much that we don't know.
Well, and the
Really?
the thing of it is, and that's one of the things that we try very hard to do, is we do it because it's the right thing to do,
Right.
not because somebody's going to give us accolades.
I get
Yeah.
that.
It's because we have a lot of private members do privately, like for the, working on the lakes, or the different lakes they might live near or
Yeah.
with, but they don't care to have accolades, it's the Knights getting involved, but yet it's the Brother Knight that's very involved in it.
Yeah.
But we just do it, because it's the right thing to do,
That's so important.
yes.
Well, we're working on getting more of that too. So,
Yeah.
along the lines of the Keep Christ in Christmas campaign, we want to just get that sort of thing going,
The right thing to do.
because it's the right thing to
Yeah.
do, because it involves the entire community, not because it's, oh, the Knights of Columbus are doing
Right.
this. No, it's a group of people who are concerned, along with other groups of people who are
Yeah.
concerned, and we're
I
doing
think
it
so
together.
often the small groups who are doing what they can to really help a community, the larger community, just don't even know. I mean, you guys are doing stuff that I didn't know about. So there are so many other groups that we're all struggling to do the right thing.
Right,
But if we work together,
that's right, you work
it
together, you
can
have
make
power.
such a massive difference.
Yes. Oh, a good local example of a group of people that I never would have believed would ever be able to do this, because I was involved in that 27, 28 years ago, is the United Christian Academy.
Right.
You know, that was an example. There were things that were going on in the community. People were concerned. The local Catholic high school had closed. Alternative education is always a good thing for a
Yes.
community, regardless of what it may be. And we had some local folks that you couldn't put them in the same room together, because they were like, well,
You're
let's
right.
just say
I'm right.
fire and gasoline, exactly.
Yeah.
But we did get a group of people together, and the result is UCA, and it's been around, I think, 27 years
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
And
That's
they
a
have
wonderful
good,
thing.
They have
Well,
good programs too.
that's
Sure
what
they
we did
do.
with Shopping Santa, do a plug for them, is this weekend, they're having a Christmas bazaar.
Yeah.
That's what we took a lot of our stuff that did not sell, it was good stuff, we
Yeah.
boxed
Bring
it
it
all
over
up
there.
and
Took
over to
it there.
Christian Academy.
That's
Sure.
great. And in our last 2 seconds, because we're already running over time, the raffle that you've been running, that
Oh,
you
yeah.
post something from every day.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that
That's
fun?
wonderful. We all look to see if we've won.
Oh, yeah, definitely, a
I
lot of
haven't
people,
yet.
lot of
What's
people.
wrong
I
with
did.
this?
I
Because
did.
You did.
next year,
Yeah.
we'll probably have coats of kids, you're gonna see us probably give out
Good.
2 times or 3 times more coats this
That's
year.
great.
Because it was such a good year this year.
Yeah.
And that's how it reflects, is how much we can
Bring
bring
you
in
can
under
put
different
out.
charity things, then we have to budget it out where we're gonna be
Right.
giving it, scholarships and stuff like that throughout the year.
Thank you so much for coming in. I've learned a lot from this. It's great.
Thank you for having
you.
us.
And we'll do it again sometime.
Very
Definitely.
good.
Thank you.